Nogi passing. Now, the more astute among us have probably figured out by now that there's some fundamental differences when compared to the gi. If your approach to the Nogi is just pretend you're rolling in the gi, well, all I can say is, if you like this channel and want to see more of it, or if you just want to make a happy bird, don't forget to like and subscribe. Now, without further ado, let's get into how to approach passing a seated opponent in the Nogi. In the Nogi, there are way less options than when we are wearing our sexy pajamas, so let's focus on when they're sitting up. Our opponent typically is in some variation of 3 positions if they're committed to playing seated guard. The least played is when they're sitting further back with their legs more exposed. Honestly, anyone playing like this is free to flip onto their back. Don't just pull their legs straight upwards though. Pull their legs while moving yourself backwards to avoid them being pulled underneath you. Otherwise, you can force them into the 2 other variations by coiling yourself up like a spring, also known as getting your goddamn wrestling stance. They'll either match your posture by sitting forward or be open to body lock passes and free underhooks. Then there's the middle ground, where the protection is more solid all around. If they're worth a fuck, they're not leaving any openings here, so we're going to have to create them. They can also be sitting aggressively forwards while still committed to playing guard, leaving their head more exposed. And then there's those sick few among us who are just dead set on wrestling. And to those people we say, but the threat of some white belt college wrestlers deciding to make us lazy guard pulling fucks into their new plaything is just too high to ignore. So whether you're proficient at wrestling or not, once again, get into that wrestling stance. I'm gonna beat this concept into you through repetition. Are you learning yet? You should be treating every seated passing position as if you're playing the no touchy game with your leg. If they're seated like they're going to wrestle, you're gonna have to flip them onto their back using their legs while grip fighting them, or just basically commit to wrestling. I'll likely cover how to deal with wrestlers while passing in more depth in another video, as dealing with wrestlers is never a simple thing. Alright, when they're sitting aggressively forwards with their head over top of their feet, they leave a massive opening. It's not the most common style of guard out there, but it is something you do run into and it can be fairly easy to punish. And how do we punish it? With excessive use of violence, of course. I'm going to club their head and try and spike it into the mat. This isn't the time to be nice, but also keep in mind you're not just trying to hit them. You're trying to actually pull their head into the mat. So if their posture is just too strong, I would not even attempt this beyond a probing club. We are capitalizing on a vulnerability that's either there or it's not. If you do manage to get their posture past that threshold though, you can just basically jump over them. There's a few ways this can look. I can spike them down and connect my chest to the back of their shoulder and then leap. This one having the more likely fail scenario of having to snatch up the crucifix. If you intend on attempting this live, you should be ready to switch into that anyways, as if you jump without pulling their posture down enough, they will likely catch your leg in midair. You can also spike their head while your other arm blocks their arm from grabbing you, using that frame to circle behind them. It's the same as you would if you just spiked them down into a turtle from standing. You can also spike their head into a football grip, digging an underhook with the other arm and then switching into the knee slice. Otherwise, if you get a very solid spike, you can find yourself in Darce territory. And for my fellow long necks out there, you know exactly how scary this can be to deal with. The majority of people out there will likely be found seated somewhere in the middle of the two. They're savvy enough not to expose their head while keeping the ability to grip fight and defend their feet. I've got 4 methods I like to use to take advantage of the fact that they're sitting up. 1. While keeping my stance, just reach out and grab the head. I'm going to pull him to me or me to him depending on our relative size, using the club to close the gap between us as I force an underhook knee slice. Be ready to use the underhook to throw them down as needed. Number 2. Pulling their grips to force underhook openings. This is my personal favorite of the pass. As you get any grip, be pulling it down hard. Just the act of pulling forces them to react. When someone gets yanked forward, their instinct is to pull away. This virtually always leaves an opening to shoot an underhook, so it ends up looking like you're walking inwards, you grabbing pull the first grip and immediately shoot the same hand into an underhook while walking the knee slice down. You can also duplicate this by pulling their arm outwards if you have any control of their grip, then shooting an underhook knee slice. If you manage to cement a cross grip into the mat, grab the head with the other hand and circle for a free pass, though this is once again more failing on them to react or pressure back more than anything else. Number 3. Cross gripping the leg while clubbing the head to throw the leg out of the way, typically into a knee on belly. For all you divinely favored out there having been granted the gift of height, this is a great way to abuse that inherent power. Number 4. Pulling the head down with one arm to feed the other into a football grip. From there, you can play with all your headlock options or use it to force an underhook on the other side, and once again, go for the knee slice. Alright, now it's time to talk about underhooks and knee slices. It's become such a staple to my Nogi game that you kinda just end up seeing them everywhere. As long as I can dive my knee across and get that underhook, I'm going to full send it. Now the underhook attachment is worth its weight in gold, so we want to commit a lot of energy to keeping it there. Our underhooks want to be strong enough that they can't recircle the underhook out. I'm shooting it elbow deep and then curling the bottom blade of my hand inwards. Often you don't need to do this and can get away with shooting any old underhook. But if they're tough, you'll need that attachment to be as solid as possible. Otherwise, you'll find yourself having to spin out to north-south or possibly just losing the pass entirely. Once I have my underhook, I have a couple ways of hitting the knee slice. I can diving knee slice by shooting my knee forward, going all the way to the mat, landing either along their ribs or pushing their thigh backwards with my knee as I land. Only shooting my knee outwards when I know I can hold them down if I do. We do not want to create any more space than we have to. You never know when someone might get excited and that 1 inch might turn into 5. And then one thing leads to another and suddenly we find ourselves having to pass their guard again. You thought I was going somewhere else with that, didn't you? The other option is walking them down with the knee slice. So I'm doing basically the same as the diving knee slice except slower and with more pressure to hold it afterwards. If we can do a move with more pressure, we're more likely to succeed. Now, if they're a wrestler, this is how I'm going to have to do it to realistically hold them down. With any of the style of attachments, underhooks, head clubs and underhooks, or football grips and underhooks, it's gonna look pretty much the same. From my stance, I'm going to walk my knee forwards, aiming for the hip flexor and thigh. My other leg takes steps, either small or big depending on how fast I go, to keep my center of balance. As your knee starts to go through, your knee aims for the mat close to their hips or ribs. If my foot feels clear, I can pivot on that knee to prevent any space from being created, rather than sliding the knee outwards. Make a habit when knee slicing to tuck your heel to your butt so you don't accidentally put yourself in half guard again. Another finish is as my knee comes through, I start to push the point of my knee backwards into their hip flexors, using my knee to scoop their leg out of the way. No matter what my knee is doing though, I'm holding on to that underhook for dear life. I'm going to use my chest or my underhook to force their upper body flat. My other arm can also club the head as needed. Personally, I like to attach that club into the underhook, giving me a solid way to turn their head away and mess with their spine. Otherwise, that arm is going to be considered an active post if I ever need to keep my balance. But there's a ton of variations and a lot more details that can go into finishing knee slices. So if you want to catch that video when it comes out, or if you just want to support me and the channel, don't forget to hit the little notification bell down in the corner. You can also get early access to these videos and other perks just by becoming a free subscriber on Patreon.
Bye, have a great time!